Michiko and Hatchin, episode 20, Rendezvous of Extermination. I really love this episode because the ending of it was actually really awesome because this was actually an action-packed episode for the second half. But this was also a very important episode story-wise because finally we have like this big confrontation between Satoshi and Shinsuke. And it was pretty awesome. We even got a flashback for them. And I kind of like the flashback because we start off, it's Satoshi kind of just, he's on this building, he's just like stumping on the ground. And Hatchin asks, like, what the heck are you doing? And so then it's like, I brought this town to ruins. And they do the flashback, and it was really funny because they were standing in this really messed up building. And then even in the flashback, it was messed up. And I was like, if this is a super long time ago, this would be hilarious. And I think it was like 18 years, or it may have only been 10 years, but it was like 10 years ago, and that building was just destroyed. It was just funny to me for no good reason. It was just like, if this is like 10, 15 years ago, this would be ridiculous, and it was just funny to me. But I really like the flashback because, of course, whenever they kind of show something where it's like, oh, I bet you could totally do this or that, and it's something that involves killing someone, it's like, I know this is going to come back into play by the end of this episode. And it certainly does. We finally have, this big confrontation where Satoshi has been going after Shinsuke for quite a while now. Like, Shinsuke has been going after him really more than anything else. And then Satoshi finally had enough of him and it's like, screw this. And, he took the car and messed him up. He blinded him in one eye. He has the brace on his leg and everything. All messed up. And so we finally have this big confrontation between these two. And it was really fun. He sends a couple guys in there. That first guy was like, you guys, I think he actually said pussies. I don't remember. But, like, yeah, you guys are being wusses. It's just one guy. He got mowed down super fast. It was just like, boom. That one guy killed him real fast. And then there was just all sorts of crazy stuff. When he throws a grenade down after that, which had the best trajectory I've ever seen in my life. Because he threw it down the steps, and it bounced a full circle around 3 straight corners. Or 2 corners, but 3 just flat walls, and it's like that thing went all the way around and went down the stairs. It was like a magic slinky or something. Of course, those guys actually don't end up getting killed from that, but Satoshi, I don't know. I never thought Satoshi was like super badass or anything, but this episode kind of made him badass. Like, he took out the first guy, tosses the grenade down to the other 2, blows through the floor to drop to the lower level. And then he takes out the guys from the top, and it was just really cool. And he shot someone through a wall, if I remember right. But he was taking everybody out. He landed on top of the car from, I guess, the 2nd floor. And the one guy who was in the front of the car, Shinsuke was like, don't freak out because the car's bulletproof. And he was just dumb. He just leaves out, and of course, he just gets shot straight in the back, and he just dies in motion. And that was I think that was the most realistic death they ever had on the show, and it was kind of crazy to see that happen because he was just trying to get away and he gets shot, and it was just he was still moving a little bit, but then he just collapsed. I was like, that was oddly realistic. Something about it just was different than people getting blown away and stuff like that. But then he has one up on him because of course Satoshi knows that the car is bulletproof, so he just puts one little hand in there, and it's it's not gonna work because this is bulletproof even with your 2 handguns. Nothing's gonna happen. You might hit my hand and that'll mess me up, but you'll be dead. So it was a great confrontation, and then we got little snippets between the sort of Satoshi Hatchin storyline where we get Michiko heading towards their city, and she figured out exactly where they had to have been by the end. And the whole thing is just her. Basically, it's her crazy little road trip is what we got for Michiko in this episode. It's she flies past the cops, screws up her car. I couldn't believe she made it past 2 unbelievably impossible barricades, and it blew my mind. The first one was impossible, but it made sense because it was alright, she made it through that. She was, flying at them, she crashed the car, and it just barely kept going, and of course it caught on fire, and then she rolled the thing. But the second one, the cars were already smashed together, and then she was literally just pushing them out of the way, and she still made it through. And I was like, that I can't believe that actually just worked. But if Michiko is doing it, it's gonna work in her favor, and it certainly does in this episode. And it was just crazy. But the whole thing was just her little snippets. I don't know why, because I shouldn't have even thought this, but I honestly was a little worried she might get killed in this episode because first they have her roll the car. I figured she'd get at least caught during that first part. I thought she would have actually gotten arrested because, she rolled the car. And even when she stood up and fell right back down because she was, really jacked up. But the second time when she's like driving on her own and she flies like towards the barricade, I was kind of freaked out. Like they might actually like shoot at her. But of course, in anything made for television, the cops who, this is a person who not only stole a cop car, crashed through the first barricade, rolled a car. She also, while stealing the cop car, kidnapped one of the cops and had a gun to his head for, who knows how many miles before kicking him out of the car. And then they were just like, oh, let's jump out of the way. Like, in real life, she would have been mowed down. That would have been like just a crazy shootout. That car would have been riddled with bullets, and that would have been the end of Michiko in this series. But because it's an anime, or just in general, a story put to television, she was totally fine as one of the main characters. You kind of get that pseudo-god status in certain episodes. And this was definitely one of them, because they should have been shooting the crap out of that car. And they did not whatsoever. Even the people, when she was leaving, were shooting at her more than the second barricade that she drove towards. Like, the first barricade she got through, they shot at the car more than the second people did. And they had a ton of leeway. Like, alright, there she is coming down this one road, which I also thought she could have easily just shot to the side and kind of, messed them up a little. Like, oh, we didn't see that one coming. And then just, boom, just do like that and get back on the road. But in typical Michiko fashion, she just burst straight through and totally survived, riding off into the sunset. But it was kind of cool to see that happen. I'm like, this is probably the craziest stuff she's ever survived, to be totally honest. And, I mean, whole series, she's done some insane stuff. And this was just like, man, she should have been all shot up and she should have been full of holes in this one. But, it was a nice little adventure to see her on this little road trip. And then the other half of the story is very solid. Like, she's traveling, even though the whole thing was open desert. She was like the emotion of the episode. Like, she's in motion the whole time. And then Satoshi and Hatchin were kind of just stuck in this little hotel. I don't know if that was abandoned or what. Like, I know Satoshi mentioned, like, the city was, like, brought to ruins or whatever. But there were obviously places still in business. He bought, like, whatever those little bread triangle-looking things were. So the place was in business. But when they were shooting it up, there was, like, no one there. It wasn't like people were freaking out and running from the hotel or anything. It was like, was this place abandoned or something? It was kind of weird to see that happen. And I thought they were just in a hotel at first, and then it was completely deserted. When the shootout happened, there was not a single person there. No one was, like, running out and screaming. So I guess that was just one of the torn down places. It was just still standing, and that's where they were staying, I guess. But I really liked this episode. It was a good action episode. It didn't really, I mean, it did push a lot of stuff forward because this was kind of like a side story from, I guess really it was a side story. Like, Satoshi wasn't even really introduced. Like, Shinsuke was introduced before Satoshi actually was, because they had, like, the fake Satoshi, and that's how we got introduced to Shinsuke. So I guess technically this was it kind of became a part of the story where it was just like a side thing, but it had really nothing to do with Michiko and Hatchin's main journey. It just happened to be that Hatchin was involved in that, and she even gets a gun in this episode, which they don't make her end up using it, which I think would have been very interesting if, Michiko or Hatchin had to actually protect herself and shoot someone. But I'm kind of glad that didn't happen. I think that would have messed her up, because she's like the very innocent type of character. And if it was Michiko, very different. But for Hatchin, this young girl, and even if she was older, it's like certain characters, obviously, based on their personalities, it's like, it's nice that they didn't force them to do something so dark that, it kind of messes up their character. So I was fine with that. It, kind of quadruples considering she's only like 9 years old. But it was a really fun episode. I mentioned this for the last one, but we only have like 3 more episodes left, with this being 20. I think there might only be 2 episodes. This might only have like 22, 23. Typical sort of anime fashion, it's, 23 or so episodes. So it really sucks that it's almost over. We really only have like a month worth, of Michiko and Hatchin, if that. Or not even a month worth, even, knowing how many episodes there are. There's at max like 23, I believe. I could be wrong though, but there's still only a month left. So it sucks that, this adventure is almost over, but this is definitely an awesome episode. I don't know how they're going to do things for the next one, how close, Michiko's going to end up being to Satoshi and Hatchin, But Hatchin knows where to find Hiroshi, and so Satoshi's kind of holding on to her. And it was fun. It was a good episode. There was something that was really cool when Hatchin was kind of getting the info out of Satoshi, like, what's he like? And he said the same thing Michiko said, and she's like, well, based on what I know, he's kind of an idiot, and he probably wasn't even listening because, people think he lends a sympathetic ear and stuff. And she's like, well, he probably just wasn't paying attention, and he seems like a good listener because he's, zoned out and thinking about whatever he wants. But I thought that was kind of funny, and then Satoshi's like, I know the guy, and that certainly wasn't it. But I'm looking forward to the next episode, whatever it may be. But this was definitely a fun one. Of course, I want to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I just want to know what you guys thought about the action in this episode, whether it was from Michiko and her crazy, road trip against the police, or, if Satoshi versus Shinsuke's entire army. I want to know what you guys thought about that, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.